Welcome to this Killick Explains video, and welcome to a video that's fairly timely as we track through the summer, or the start of the summer, and that is how can we make our lives easier for the tax year that lies ahead. What often happens is people enter into a mad scramble in sort of March time to get ahead of the 5th of April deadline each tax year, when actually we've now got an opportunity to make our lives a little bit easier going forward. And the problem with leaving everything to the last minute, apart from the stress involved, is we might not use up key allowances, we may miss the 5th of April deadline altogether, and we might be forced to scramble around to find lump sums that we don't necessarily have or wouldn't otherwise necessarily want to have to find. So a better approach. Let's get organised, let's maximise tax relief, and let's invest regularly and automatically. Do I do all these things all the time? No. I'm guilty of not taking my medicine, if you like, but these are three things that I need to focus on, just as I recommend everybody else does. So let's take them one in turn. Getting organised. Now, a big part of getting organised is simple stuff. Only keep key records. Don't duplicate. Don't keep 2 copies or copies in different formats if you only need one. And don't keep documents forever. You don't actually need to keep documents forever for tax purposes, for example. Shred what you don't need. Don't just throw it into the recycling. That's dangerous. It can lead to ID fraud and so on. So shred what you don't need, or get someone else to shred it for you. And review and update key documents. And the start of a tax year is a good time to do that. Wills, powers of attorney. If I think about powers of attorney, for example, do I have the right attorneys in place? Are they still capable and willing to act? Have I got delegated powers over discretionary investment management written into the document, for example? So lots of things that are worth checking. Is my will up to date? Does it reflect changing family circumstances and so on? So lots of things to do, and if you're thinking, crikey, he's covered a lot of ground very quickly there, I always do in these videos, well, the latest issue of Confidant, more about how to get hold of that at the end, has a full article on getting organised in a new tax year within it, and also these things, the how-to guides, contain lots of hints and tips, particularly 2 of them, tax effective saving and the later life guide. More about those coming up. So we're going to get organised. Number 2, we're going to maximise tax relief. Now, don't waste allowances, and if you leave things to the last minute, there is more of a risk that you will waste key allowances, and with the cost of living spiralling all the time, it's really important that if we can afford to, we shelter as much as possible from HMRC. And in order to do that, just want to remind you about a few allowances you could think about using up every tax year. One is the ISA allowance, £20,000 per adult, into a range of shares, bonds, funds and so on. Then there's the junior ISA allowance of up to £9,000 per child. Again, that offers them a way of protecting money over the long term, allowing it to grow. And the 2 taxes I'm talking about, by the way, are income tax and capital gains tax. Then you've got the lifetime ISA. Doesn't work for everyone, but there's potentially £4,000 that can go in there in total each tax year. And then, of course, there are pensions. So once you've used up, let's say, your ISA allowances, pensions, there is the possibility to shelter up to £40,000 or put £40,000 into a pension, subject to having sufficient income, subject to not being tapered in terms of the amount you can put in if you're a higher earner, and subject to making sure you do a check that the total amount, if you like, the total benefit you might be able to withdraw is going to stay below the lifetime allowance. And if you're not sure what I just referred to there, then my how-to guides contain a bit more information. This is just an overview. So we're getting organised, we're maximising tax relief, and we're going to try and invest regularly and automatically. All right. Now, investing in things like ISAs and junior ISAs can be done automatically via an app these days. So open an app, set up a direct debit, and then you can just forget about it. In other words, you haven't got to worry. If you basically allocate the allowance you can afford to over 12 months, then by the end of the tax year, you've used the full allowance and you haven't basically had to scramble around and you haven't had a cash flow crisis in about March time. Try and make sure that you benefit from pound cost averaging and dripping into the market. We are in volatile markets right now. Will achieve that effect of sort of smoothing when you buy units or shares, if you like, and therefore maximising over the long term the sort of return you make. I mean, lump sums are fine, but they tend to work better in a sort of bull run, if you like. At the moment, pound cost averaging will, on average, so to speak, get you a better result. And of course, it'll give you smoother cash drawdowns. If you're doing regular contributions, you won't be scrambling around wondering where the cash is going to come from to do a kind of £20,000 ISA contribution or a £9,000 JISA contribution. That's not the kind of money everyone just has sitting on the sidelines. All right? And overall, of course, what we're trying to do here is to manage end of tax year stress levels. And all of the three things I've just mentioned should hopefully help in that regard. Now, I've covered a lot of ground. You may want to know more about all of these topics, so do, once again, feel free to access my extensive video library, killick.com/learn. And if you'd like copies either of the latest Confidence Spring 2022, as I make this one, or the how-to guides I mentioned with some more meat around things like wills and power of attorney, then do ping me an email, editor@killick.com.